Hello everyone. In today's lesson, we're going to learn about the subjunctive mood. So let's begin. So in Spanish, we have the subjunctive mood and the indicative mood. And basically, a mood is the intention the speaker has when giving a message. In the indicative, we tend to communicate opinions, facts, or habitual actions. In the subjunctive, we tend to give advice or talk about hypothetical situations. Now, each of these moods have tenses. A tense is basically the time frame in which an action takes place. So far, we have learned about the present, the past, preterite, and imperfect, the future, and the present perfect. All these are tenses. So for the purpose of this video, we're only going to learn about the verb conjugation of the verbs in the subjunctive mood. In later lessons, we will learn when to use the subjunctive. But for now, let's take a look at the mechanics and the pattern of conjugation in the present tense. So let's begin with regular AR verbs. For that, you have to conjugate the verb in the form of yo in the present indicative. So, for example, if we look at the verb hablar, first you say yo hablo, and then we change the O ending for E. So yo hable, tú hables, él, ella, usted hable, nosotros hablemos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes hablen. Now let's take a look at the second pattern. And this is for the regular verbs that end in er and ir. So again, let's say we take the verb comer and vivir. We first conjugate each verb in the form of yo, present indicative. So yo como, yo vivo. And then we replace that O for the ending a, as, a, amos, an. So let's take a look at the verb comer. It would be yo coma, tú comas, él, ella, usted coma, nosotros comamos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes coman. So now let's take a look at the verb vivir. Yo viva, tú vivas, él, ella, usted viva, nosotros vivamos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes vivan. And notice the conjugation an and amos and a. So our next pattern is stem changing verbs that end in ir, such as, for example, preferir. So this is a verb that changes from e to ie. So we follow the same strategy. First we do present indicative in the form of yo prefiero, and then we change the ending o to a. So it would be yo prefiera, tú prefieras, and notice that the stem change pattern continues. Él, ella, usted prefiera, But in the nosotros form, prefiramos, we only change the stem half. So we only use the I. And then we go back to ellos, ellas, prefieran. So let's take a look at another stem change I at a verb, dormir. Changes from O to UE. So it would be yo duerma, tú duermas, él, ella, usted duerma, nosotros durmamos. So it happens the same thing as with the verbs that change from E to IE. We only do half of a stem change. And then in the ellos, ellas, ustedes, we go back to duerman, the full stem change. The next pattern of conjugation is for the verbs that end in car, gar, and zar. So notice that these are AR verbs. So let's begin with the verb sacar. So the ending is just like verbs that end in AR in the subjunctive. We change the ending for E, but there is a spell change. So for yo, it would be saque, tú saques, él, ella, usted saque, and each of those conjugations need to have the QU. Nosotros saquemos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes saquen. So for the verbs that end in gar, such as jugar, so again, in the form of yo, we have to do that first step. In the present tense will be juego, because it's a stem change. The ending then would change to juegue, and now we need to have a GUE, tú juegues, él, ella, usted juegue. And in nosotros, the stem only changes half, so juguemos. And the ellos, ellas, ustedes would be jueguen. Going back to the conjugation pattern. So let's take a look at the verbs that end in zar, such as empezar. So again, the first step is in the present indicative, yo empiezo. And then we change the ending, but there's a spelling change. And the zeta becomes se. So it would be yo empiece, tú empieces, él, ella, usted empiece. Now, because this is an AR ending verb, then there's no stem change in nosotros. So it will be empecemos, but there is a spelling change from zeta to se. And then ellos, ellas, ustedes goes back to the pattern of stem change and zeta to se. Empieza. And this last pattern of conjugation are irregular verbs in the present subjunctive. There are 5. Dar, estar, ir, saber, and ser. So let's begin with the verb dar. Is yo de, and notice the accent. It is very important to have that accent. Tú des, él, ella, usted de, nosotros demos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes den. Now remember the accent in both él, ella, and usted and yo forms. The next verb would be estar. Yo esté. And again, notice the accent. Tú estés. Él, ella, usted esté. Nosotros estemos. And ellos, ellas, ustedes estén. And again, notice the accent in the form of yo, tú, él, and ellos. Our next verb is ir. Yo vaya, tú vayas, él, ella, usted vaya, nosotros vayamos, ellos, ellas, ustedes vayan. And last, oh no, we have two more. Saber. Yo sepa, tú sepas, él, ella, usted sepa, nosotros sepamos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes sepan. Now, last but not least, the verb ser. Yo sea, tú seas, él, ella, usted sea, nosotros seamos, ellos, ellas, ustedes sean. Well, those were a lot of verbs. So in summary, number one, the subjunctive is a mood, not a tense. And it's a mood that has to do with uncertainty, with wishes, or with advice. Second, to conjugate verbs in the present subjunctive. First, we need to conjugate the verb in the form of yo in the present indicative. And then we replace the ending. If it is an AR verb, we change it for es, hemos, en. And for ER and IR verbs, we change the ending for a, as, a, amos, and. Fourth, for stem changing verbs in the form of nosotros, if it ends in IR, there's only half a stem change. So if it's O to EU, E to IE, and if it ends in AR, remember that there is no stem change. Number 5, the verb that ends in car has a spell change QU, gar, GU, and SAR, replace the zeta for se. And lastly, there are 5 irregular verbs in the present subjunctive. And those are dar, estar, ir, saber, and ser. And that's it for today.